Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to make certain you find your best, most true, authentic business voice. Hell, your best, most authentic voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, meet the person of your dreams, make billions of dollars. All right, we don't guarantee those last two. We don't. Yeah. We're working on that. That's a work in progress. But the other ones, yeah. We love the fact that you keep watching, liking, sharing. You're hearing us anywhere you get your podcasts, and keep watching us on YouTube as well too. We love both. Tell your friends, tell your families. And why are we able to make those big grandiose promises? Well, it's easy because I get the privilege to get people here who actually walk the walk. And today is no exception. I get to introduce to you today someone who I met on Podmatch.
Yeah.
All right, it ain't like that. Podmatches. I thank Alex Sanfilippo for making the platform work. And folks, you're going to meet today Craig Meiwether. Craig, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
You and me both, man. I'm thrilled. Folks, we got a good one here. Craig happens to be a certified clinical hypnotherapist, a medical hypnosis specialist, also a mindset coach, teaching people to use the power of their subconscious minds to eliminate a negative emotions happen to be in their life. Look, this happens to work with early childhood trauma, pain control, veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, students with test anxiety, overwhelm, fear, and anxiety. Look, we got somebody here who really walks the walk. By the way, too, we're going to talk about some other things. Craig happened to have created the platform aceanytest.com, helping those eliminate test anxiety, a big damn deal. Craig also happens to be an author who created the best-selling program Depression 180, which, by the way, others have said is the best, one of the best thorough books on depression that they've ever read. I love the fact, Craig, I want to talk about this because immediately I want to go to an old, as I said again, old podcast that you did to begin the platform, which I happen to love. And the reason I do is you had some serious guests on that show.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, man.
Yeah, these were the old days.
Walk me back, because like I said, I'm seeing guests like Marianne Williamson. Oh my God. And I'm going to mispronounce Joe's name, for God's sake.
Oh, Joe Dispenza.
Right. Who's going to be
Greg
showing
Braden.
up this year Joe is showing up at Lewis Howes Greatness Summit.
Yeah.
For the first time in Los Angeles. And you had him back in the day, man.
Yeah. I went to one of his first, not to tell you how old I am, but I went to one of his first workshops. It wasn't even in Phoenix, Arizona. It wasn't in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was in Cave Creek, Arizona, a very rural part of southern Arizona. It was like 200 people there. Now he's doing these huge meditation retreats with 3,000 people on the beaches of Cancun. It's extraordinary to watch his success and growth with the work he's doing. In terms of my thing, we could go way back, but like a lot of people who get into this kind of work, it was really through my own hurt and pain, my own depression, my own anxiety, that I wanted to find a way out of. We were talking a bit before we started recording.
Yep.
I really noticed my depression and anxiety in the 1980s. There wasn't medication back then, at least the SSRI stuff, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Prozac and things like that. That didn't come out to the mid 90s or so. And so back in the 80s, you're really just hopefully finding a book or a talk therapist. And it was with the birth of my son in 2000 that I really said, I got to get my life together. It gets to a point when maybe you can relate to this and your listeners can relate. You just think that this is how it's going to be. This is a comfortable coat.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a bunch of holes in it. It doesn't keep me very warm, but it's comfortable. I don't know anything else. How would you describe color to a blind person? How would you describe happiness to a person who struggles with depression? My mother struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts, and whether it's a genetic thing or something I learned in the home. I had my own struggles. Then it was not wanting to pass this along or model it to my son, or if he struggles with it, what can I help him with? So that's what grounded me in wanting to learn how you can change. At that point in 2000, 2001, the kind of information about Prozac and those other kind of medications, the side effects were kind of coming out. And I was like, well, let's see if there's other ways. And the internet was just coming out. And there's so much information you could tap into. It's such a wonderful gift to have the internet. You have, us in our 40s and 50s and 60s and later, man, back in the 70s, you had a little card thing. You go into the library and try to find a book about something.
Uh-huh.
It's insane how people used to just get information.
Craig,
Our internet was
I'm laughingly saying, I think I did that for about 3 books in my life of going through the card file, because most of the time I'm like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Right. But may I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
Walk backwards a little bit just to help people do the math back to the comfortable coat example. Okay. So you say in the 80s,
yeah, 1980s,
aware of the feelings that you're having.
Yeah.
This is before, like, in a sense, not counting that your mom is going through this, right? Yeah. And then you had your son when?
Okay, so I graduated high school in 1985 and had my son in 2000. So, we're talking some 15, 16, depending when you start counting, 16, 17 years struggling with this. And it was
17 years. That's what I'm saying. So no wonder that sense of the comfortable code part, because you're already 17 years, and there's nothing unusual, sadly, about that, what you just said. But it's 17 years of carrying this bag, wearing the coat, or whatever the analogy is, with very little resources around you other than a card catalog at the library.
Yeah.
Hoping you can find the book, man. So you shared with me before, and I love the way I love what you said, that in terms of affecting change, when you realized you're going to have a kid. So what changed for you?
Well,
the obvious.
Nothing grounds you more than when your wife sits you down and say, "I'm pregnant, and we're gonna have a child," and you think you're ready. You've prepared, you've maybe even planned, and it's like, okay, let's get this together. And then you're looking at finances, you're looking at you have enough room in the house and all that stuff, and then you realize, but how do I feel? I'm not feeling well. And if this is a genetic thing or is a nurture thing where I don't want to mirror it for my son, and so then I started the work. What can you do? And there's lots of things. We can get to this in a minute. But there's not only easy, simple techniques to do, but there's lots of strategies and skills. And there was a point in time where I just woke up one morning and just kind of lying in bed thinking, I haven't been depressed or anxious in a long time. I did the work and am still doing the work. There's a certain relentlessness to this work. If you want to master anything, you got to practice. And if you want to master joy, you want to master happiness, peace, freedom, whatever, confidence, there's a relentlessness to it. And what I realized is I had this toolbox filled with strategies, techniques, skills, and I had a little mastermind group. My God, I recommend anybody, you want to supersize your development and growth, get a mastermind group together, 3, 4 people. You don't have to be in the same industry, but just people looking for success, looking to encourage one another, looking to support one another, whether you're on Zoom, whether you can get together in person, find a mastermind group. My God, the three of us together, we did so much growth and so much, not even just business, but just in ourselves. And one of the things I kind of stumbled across was Hay House was having a writing contest, like a book contest.
Okay, right.
So I joined this. It was like 2010, 2011, and entered the course, wrote the book, Depression 180. Boy, if you want to get something done, have some massive deadlines. And so I got
Talk to
this
me about
book
this.
written. Yeah.
I walk me through this because I feel like, how many people do you know that intend, plan, would like to write a book?
Yeah.
Anyone watching or listening, no need to raise your hand. Sadly, I won't see you. But I was going to say, pretty much everybody I know has that here. You say
Yes.
the massive deadlines to get you there. Walk me through. How did you get the book done?
So it was there was, and they may still be doing this contest on a yearly basis, but they're basically looking, the grand prize is getting your book published. And by Hay House, or this was an offset of Hay House Hierophant at the time, but there was I don't know, 500 people joined this contest, and there's a couple of bucks you threw in, but to join this contest, and there's educational seminars and all this stuff, and it just keeps getting whittled down each month from 500 to 100, 100 to 50, 50 to 20, 20 to 10, and over the course of 4 or 5 months, it got whittled down to 5, and I was in one of the 5.
Right.
And you just keep writing a chapter and writing a chapter and promoting and presenting to the contest board or the people who are looking at this stuff more and more information about your book, more chapters. And if you want to be part of the contest, you had to turn in a chapter. So you had 4 weeks to write the new chapter. And so that got done, and it was exciting. It was, I guess, fun. I don't know. Sort of like running a marathon. Is that fun? Or I don't know. You just like doing it.
I laugh because I've done marathons, and I love the analogy because you're right. It's like, was it fun? But you did it, and it was great.
You did it, and you're proud of yourself.
And when you're done, when you're done.
According to one of the people in the contest, I didn't come in first, but apparently I came in a very close second. And because I was in like the top 5, top 10, we were invited to write a chapter for this book called 30 Pearls of Wisdom that also had Jack Canfield, Marty Scheimoff, Janet Atwood.
Yeah.
And because of that, let's promote the book when it comes out. And we're all doing something different. So I decided to do a telesummit to help promote the book, help promote Depression 180, because while I didn't get the Hay House contract, I decided to publish it myself. And so I did a telesummit with 40 experts on depression, Dr. Daniel Amen, and all sorts of different people. This was back in 2012 or so when telesummits were still kind of a thing. And I had so much fun with that. This kind of new thing that had been around just a couple of years, but this new thing called podcasts come about. I'm like, well, here's a way to kind of continue with this fun.
God, it was new then.
Back in the day, it was there was only kind of a handful. It was more pirate radio than celebrity entertainment, like it seems to be now, with your Joe Rogans and your Mark Marons and all the fancy celebrity people having their own podcasts and getting the big money. But back then it was real pirate radio. And so the bigger people, if you will, and I don't mean to say that derogatorily to people who may or may not be as popular, but the Marianne Williamsons and the Greg Bradens and the Joe Dispenzas and the Bruce Liptons and things knew of podcasting, and so it was not difficult to you just asked, here's my podcast, here's some episodes, and their PR people would put it on the list. It's like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? And you were able to. One of the people I was so fortunate to interview was the jazz great, the guitarist John McLaughlin.
That's Sick.
And mainly because I kind of had an offshoot of my main podcast on spirituality
Mm-hmm.
and called Garden of the Mystics.
Mm-hmm.
My main podcast was called Tipping Point Radio, but I wanted to do a more spiritual thing.
Right.
And I just made the proposal. I said, I want to talk music and spirituality. And so I sent it to his agent in Europe, who does all his European dates for whatever band he had put together at the time. And I said, look, I want to talk to John about this, about spirituality and music. And because I didn't want to talk about guitar chords and guitar strings and acoustic versus electric, and when are you getting back together with Carlos Santana and all that? When are you putting a Mahavishnu orchestra back together? Since I wasn't asking him about that, he emailed me and said, yeah, I'd love to do this. And we had an extraordinary conversation. So that lasted till about from 2012 to 2015. I was trying to put together this network of different kind of shows, and it just got to the point where I wanted to learn hypnotherapy. I wanted to learn neurolinguistic programming, and it was that one or the other. And it was fun doing the podcasting thing. I wasn't seeing the sponsorship results or even the listener results. And I really want to learn hypnotherapy. And I don't think I can do both as well as continue bringing in money for the mortgage and the gas bill and the electrical bill. And so as I'm learning hypnotherapy and then starting that business, I don't think I continue on with the business of podcasting. So I had to make a choice, and unfortunately, the fun of doing podcasting had to go the wayside. But
So you pivoted.
That's a long answer to a short question of
I love it.
Podcasting started. Yeah.
One follow-up question before we move to the hypno, because that's, like I said, really was the primary thing that got me to you.
Yeah.
But in regards to the spirituality and the interest, were you always interested in spirituality? Has that always guided you? Are you still?
Yes. Yeah. I was born into the Episcopal Church.
Okay.
And mainly because we were discussing before, I was raised in San Diego, California, from the age of 6 months. And so there's a Episcopal church about 5 blocks away from our house. If it was Methodist, I'd probably be Methodist. But I happened to be an Episcopal church. I loved that kind of stuff. It's kind of Catholicism light, Protestant version of Catholicism.
What would you say? Oh, not born again. God, no. I grew up Catholic.
Okay. And I love that stuff.
I call myself Reformed Catholic. I'm not. You know what I mean? And so I get interested in others because I probably am still searching. But I hated the rules and regs. And
I think you might want to, I loved the robes. I was an acolyte, altar boy. I loved the candles. I loved the ritual of it all. Maybe I didn't understand it, certainly around communion and the wine and the wafers and all that. But I loved the ceremony, the ritual of it.
I got you.
So I was born into the Episcopal Church. In the 6th grade, I started going to a private school that was run by Baptists. Okay. So Monday through Friday, I'm getting a Baptist education, including a Bible class, and one day a week we'd have chapel, which all the entire school of all, 300 students would get together and have, chapel and a speaker and sing and all that stuff. So Monday through Friday, I was at a Baptist school, and the weekend, since my friends were at the church, we're in youth group. We do church youth group stuff. Of course, Sunday we have church. So my upbringing was definitely rooted in religion, to the point where I thought maybe being a priest would be a good way to go, because I wanted that connection with, what you can call God, the universe, the energy of all life, whatever you want to call it. And I thought maybe being a priest, here's them teaching you how to do that. I was even with my spare time in the charismatic movement that was going on back in the.
I remember that.
And so I was doing that kind of stuff. And at high school graduation, most of my friends were a year older than me. And so they had graduated the year before and gone to different colleges around the United States. Again, this is the 80s. There's not Zoom. There's not Facebook. There's not these things
No.
where you can really keep together.
People just
And
went
so I
away.
lost a lot of my friends, and church wasn't that fun anymore, and I with my girlfriend then at the time, now my wife of 32 years, we moved in 1990 to Santa Cruz, California to go to the university there. We were both accepted. And this exploded my mind because in the Bay Area there, the Central California, Santa Cruz is right on the Monterey Bay. Monterey is to the south. Santa Cruz is to the north, about 90 minutes south of San Francisco, about an hour west of San Jose, Silicon Valley.
Beautiful
Right.
areas.
And
Monterey, I
beautiful
know
area,
well, but I was going to say, yeah.
but also like the literal melting pot.
Yep.
And Santa Cruz was very open to all sorts of cultures and music and dance, and with it, the spirituality comes with it, whether it's Haitian or Cuban or Japanese or some form of Middle Eastern Sufism. And I started exploring all of it. And the music, and I was very much I love to drum, so I was learning all sorts of different drumming styles, and with that the culture, with that the spirituality that comes with it. And so that helped in that aspect. I think to a certain respect, I felt, to me, there was a ceiling on what I can learn from Sufism because I didn't know Arabic. There's a certain aspect to maybe Zen Buddhism from Japan because I didn't know Japanese. I didn't understand the culture. I wasn't born there. My name is Craig Meiwether. You don't get more United Kingdom than that. I have a Celtic first name and a French middle name. My mother's maiden name, Dorsey, and a very, very, very English last name. In fact, I've done the genealogy stuff, the DNA.
Nice.
It's like 98% UK. And so I was missing that aspect. I liked the ritual that you found in Western spiritualism, like you might find in the Episcopal Church. And so I went back to that in my own way, I guess, and started studying more like Western Hermeticism and reading about and even practicing some of the more esoteric forms that were in the late 1800s and things. And so, again, long answer to a short question. Yeah, it informed not only my growing up, but has been since all my life. And I'm turning 57 here in a few weeks. And still to this day, I'm excited. For the first time ever, we're going to England and Scotland in September. And I'm excited because I'm focusing on not only places where my family came from. My great grandfather in 1620s was priest of a church, and I know where the church is. You can go visit the church that my great grandfather was head of, and it's a small little church. It was not like St. Paul's or anything like that.
It's still alive.
But it's still, yeah, and so it's still there. I can go back to these places where my family roamed, and but also go to what some people describe as the thin places, meaning there's a thinness between this realm and the spiritual realm, and these places of power that you can find around Scotland and Ireland and England, and of course other places. It's just that's where we're heading in September. And so I'm excited to not only find these off the beaten path churches and holy sites, standing stones, not just necessarily Stonehenge, but other places like that around the United Kingdom. And I'm excited to explore that aspect. I'm not just seeing Piccadilly Circus and all the ABBA show with the avatars, even though I do have tickets to that. I want to do that kind of stuff a little bit, but it's mainly
Taylor Swift. Yeah.
And so again, probably a long answer to a short question is spirituality really informs. In fact, that's the kind of work I like to do. In my favorite work to do in hypnotherapy, the more esoteric, mystical side of things, helping people connect, maybe to a greater source, maybe to, find aspects of their spirituality that were maybe blocked or hidden. And it's extraordinarily insightful and extraordinarily healing too, to do that
So
kind of work.
I love the fact that you do the work,
Yeah.
meaning you've put in a ton of hours into this training,
Yeah.
you've put a ton of hours into the thought process of that. And I remember the first time I experienced a hypnotherapist. It
Mhm.
was to quit smoking.
Yeah.
And it was a group thing. And this was, yeah, it was in the 80s. So I'm going to say somewhere between 87 and 89-ish, maybe
Yeah.
1990. It was nuts. It was
Yeah.
freaking nuts. And crazy visuals and you know, and it was wildly, at least for me that day and the four people that I went with, wildly ineffective. And so I'm like, okay, that enough of that.
Yeah.
Then I met someone and I happened to become his first patient, who was also a friend of my family. And it was a radically different experience, radically uh, from an inclusive end, from a open end, from an encouraging end. And my mind transformed as it relates to the benefits of that. He calls it zonefulness. His name is Joseph Dowling. He's an East Coast guy
Okay.
from Philadelphia, PA, like me. And like I said, I was his first patient. And at the very beginning for him, he's a trained clinical therapist, coaches sports teams, sports
Yep.
psychology, college baseball teams, basketball teams, blah, blah, blah. Back then, me stopping smoking. And I'll never forget the process. And that's what I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
reasons I wanted you here is because of just the whole idea of taking either the shame, the guilt, or the fear out of the process of this. And I'll never forget how easy and smooth and comfortable it was. I think there were months that separated that first session with me and
Mhm.
my first time with Joe. And within 3 sessions, so I'm about 33 years removed from smoking.
Nice.
This last,
Congratulations.
thank you. And I credit him.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
that's Joe. I feel like I said, that was all Joe. And so you've put in a ton of hours to do this. What I'm curious about in terms of this, because now there is zero stigma in regards to the process.
Yeah.
Building your business, building the clientele, and maybe it's not zero,
Yeah.
but it's not like it was. It's
Definitely. Yeah.
not considered like quacks, or you know what I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
or radical, or those sorts of words. Um, it's a degree of healing. And so for myself, what have you noticed to some of the biggest changes in regards to not just the practice and the studies, but the people you see and why they come?
The people I see, I would say a good majority of them are at their wits' end and they
Okay.
are on their last rope. They have nothing else.
Okay.
They have done everything else. They've
Mhm.
done the talk therapy, or they've done the medical procedures, or they've
Right.
done all the different processes.
Mhm.
There is nothing else for them to try. What about therapeutic hypnosis?
Okay.
And I think while it doesn't have this, like you're saying, doesn't have the stigma, I think it still keeps a lot of people because of that fear of losing control,
Ah,
which is really
okay.
unfortunate because of the movies, because of the TV
Mm.
shows. And the thing with hypnotherapy, hypnosis, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
it, is that you don't lose control. And I
Hmm.
think that comes from all the comedy shows. The reason I call myself a clinical hypnotherapist, and a lot of us differentiate between, just hypnotist and a clinical hypnotherapist, is because we
Hmm.
want to differentiate between the entertainment shows you might see in a comedy club or in
Hmm.
Las Vegas.
Hmm.
And if you think about, yeah, it looks strange, it looks funny, and yeah, everybody has a good time. But understand that that hypnotist up there that's there to entertain,
Right.
there's a funny show.
Hmm.
He's not making anybody do anything they don't want to do.
Hmm.
Every single person up on that stage wanted to get up on that stage. Not only wanted to be at the show, they bought a ticket.
Hmm.
And they're just like there's not like this white van driving around just grabbing people. You're going to be in my show. They bought a ticket to the show. They sat down on their seat, and when the hypnotist comes up, who wants to come up on stage and be in my show and
Right.
have a really fun time? They raise their hands. They jump
Hmm.
up and down. Pick me,
Hmm.
pick me.
Like, let's make a deal.
Yeah, because they're exhibitionists, they're
Yep.
extroverts. They want to have a fun time. They
Yep.
want a funny video. They
Hmm.
want to be silly in front of their friends. They want to do it. So they go up on stage and there's 10 people, 12 people up there. He goes down the line and says, what's your name? Where are you from? Do you want to go into hypnosis and have a great time? Yeah, of course I do. They say yes like 7 times before this guy, quote unquote, makes them sing like Elvis or dance like Michael
Hmm.
Jackson or whatever the
Hmm.
gag is. And it's because they want to, assuming they're not faking,
Yes.
assuming they're not actors from an improv troupe
Hmm.
or something. Uh, if that's actually legit and for real, they want to do it.
Hmm.
You'll even see the videos. They're going down the line, and they'll do a kind of a warm-up process
Hmm.
and make sure people can go deep. And he'll lift up their arms and see if they flop down. And he's looking at facial um, the muscles in the face are slacking and their eyes are rolling around when they're closed. He's making sure that these people can do a fun show because that's what he's there
Hmm.
for. That's what he's getting the big bucks for is to entertain the people.
Hmm.
If you can't do it, if you're nervous and you're now your brainwave state is way up there of flying on this at the stress level, you're not going to do a good show and you're going to be excused from the stage because he
Hmm.
can't make you do and honestly, I mean, if I can make people do what I'd be, getting everybody to write me a $500 check for a
Oh.
half an hour session. And so you can't make people do anything they don't want to do. There's actually a great TED talk
Mm.
about rapid induction. I forget the guy's name. But if you probably just go to whatever it is, TEDx.com or
Yeah.
TED.com, whatever it is, TED.org, you look up hypnotherapy, it comes up, or hypnosis. And this guy's doing rapid induction. And these are 20-minute little talks, as you know, or 18-minute little talks.
Hmm.
And this guy's discussing rapid induction, and that's great for trauma. It's great for
Hmm.
sports. After you get a rapport with players, they're not doing well on the field, you bring them out, you get them in quickly into a trance state, you help with their mindset, with
Yep.
their confidence, put them back into the game. It's great for that and for trauma.
Hmm.
And so basically what it is, a lot of it is just kind of like a movement of the body. I want you to close your eyes and then you kind of pull on them, not too hard, but enough to jolt them. And what you're looking for is that mess with their equilibrium. Have you ever
Okay.
had that experience where you're lying in bed and you feel like you're falling, even
Oh,
though you're lying in
absolutely.
bed?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what you're looking for because you
Hmm.
have this little bit of time where you get that fear. Yeah, you're feeling you're falling.
Hmm.
And you have this 1 or 2 seconds where the mind is looking for information. It's looking for instructions, especially from the alpha male
Hmm.
commander general in charge, looking to retreat, looking to move forward.
Hmm.
What are we going to do? If you don't get that, then you have to come up with your own solution. So you have this moment where, and that's why everybody yells, sleep. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll go to sleep. And so that's the rapid induction real quickly. And so he explains a little bit. He gets everybody in this audience, about 500 people, to just do a nice relaxing thing.
Hmm.
I need 12 volunteers to come up. You, and you come up on stage. They all raise their hands. And he's going down the line and he's going, sleep, sleep, sleep.
Hmm.
And this one woman's up there and she didn't think it through. Now she's sitting in front of 500 people with lights and TV cameras,
Hmm.
and she's super nervous. And here's this professional, this expert, this master at this technique, let alone every other probably hypnotherapeutic technique. And he can't get her into this rapid induction because she doesn't want to. She's afraid. She's scared because of this. Everybody's looking at her. She's going to embarrass herself. And now it's getting worse because now she can't do it. And so he asks her to leave the state. I think you'd be more comfortable if you sit down. This is in his TED Talk. The man has 18 minutes.
Hmm.
And then they're going to pull the mic on him. And so now if he had a half an hour more, he would be able to relax, What's your worries? What are your fears? Let's work through those. And now let's move into hypnosis and we'll do the healing process. This man has another 5 minutes left in his time. He has to go, go, go. So he excuses her from the stage. And while that may look like a failure, it's actually a great example of you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. She was scared. She was afraid, and she didn't want to do it. So she didn't do it. And this is the unfortunate part of this work is that while it can help so many people, they're afraid that because of what they've seen on TV or movies or Las Vegas shows or whatever, that it keeps them from healing. And now you said just a few minutes ago, you're talking about your smoking cessation. And you said, he did that. Joe did that for me. It's like, I would disagree 100% with that. You did that for yourself. He handed you the shovel and the hammer and the nails, and you built your own deck.
Yeah.
And that's what's wonderful about this process. And while it can only take 2, 3, 4 sessions, this isn't talk therapy. We're not going to be talking about the issue that you think the problem is for 80, 90, 100 sessions over 2 years, and then realizing you still feel like crap. We're going to get to the root problem because you know what it is. Your subconscious mind is trying to protect you from this trauma, this hurt, this pain, whether it happened yesterday, last month, 40 years ago. You know exactly what the problem is, not consciously, but within your subconscious mind. And what neuroscience says.
That's so funny you just said that. And I was like, right, not consciously.
Yeah, the conscious mind only makes up 5% of mind. Subconscious mind is making up 9%, and that's great because it's pumping our heart and running our respiratory system, our immune system, growing our hair and all this stuff.
Yep.
It's also holding on to those habits, tying our shoes, riding a bicycle, walking down the street. But it's also holding on to the hurt and pain because it doesn't want to experience it again. Your subconscious mind is for you. It's for your safety. It's for your protection. It's for survival, which doesn't necessarily mean happiness and prosperity and success and joy, but it's for your survival. And if you've been hurt in the past, it doesn't want to experience that again. So it has all these files that it keeps on the hurt, the pain, the trauma, the embarrassment, the humiliation. And when those files get triggered, information is coming through your 5 senses, what you hear, see, taste, touch, smell. Something comes into your external environment. Oh, I have to take this test. Oh, I have to go for this job interview. Oh my God, my boss wants me to do the big presentation at the meeting on Friday. And you're like, ugh. Now you're getting these warning signals. If somebody pulls a fire alarm in a building, the sirens go off, the lights go off, warning everybody that there's danger and you better get out to safety. We also have a warning system, but instead of lights and sirens, it's anxiety, it's fear, it's anger. Your brain chemistry change creates the hormones of adrenaline and cortisol, the neuropeptides, these little molecules of fear and anxiety to warn your body that there's danger. Now, the big problem is, and what we were talking a little bit before we started recording, is like the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined.
Right.
And that's why a nightmare can feel so scary. Even if it's something ridiculous, like, the Wizard of Oz trees throwing apples at you running down the street, or a big hot dog is chasing down the street, or a cheeseburger or something. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's not going to happen. Or something super realistic, like a war veteran having a PTSD dream about being on the front lines, even though that was 30 years ago. You're both safe and comfortable and cozy in bed, and yet your brain starts creating that adrenaline and cortisol because it thinks you're in danger, it thinks you're being attacked by a cheeseburger or whatever. And so the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Will change your physiology to match what you're thinking and feeling. So this you can use to your advantage. And you're talking about you're smoking, you're visualizing, you're doing all these things. It's like you're putting yourself into a resource state of being the person you want to be. And you can do that for healing. You may not know what the problem is. You may not really understand why you started to smoke or why that person started taking that drink. A good chance is that you're trying to make yourself feel better from the pain and the hurt that you experienced. So you've put yourself in this trance state of making yourself feel better in a not very resourceful way, not very resilient way.
But short term in your mind,
short term you feel better.
Short term.
And you're trying to make yourself feel better from specifically something that hurt you in the past. You know what that is. not in your conscious mind, but your subconscious. And so it's trying to protect you from that, even if it happened 40 years ago. And in that way of holding on to that hurt and pain, you can also heal it. Because again, you know what it is. You know what the root issue is. You know what the problem is, and you know what to do to fix it.
So what
And
you
so,
don't know what it is, the root issue. Like one of the things I loved, and you had said it was the line, I don't deal with, we don't deal with symptoms. I deal
right.
with root issues. And you've just identified what you mean, which by the way, I love the fact that you get right to it with root issues. You just said, and I loved, hey, we don't sit and talk about this for 20, 30 years. We get right to the root, So
okay, well,
you said something else. So I'm trying to like merge two things together here to help, for myself and for listeners, which is we're all carrying things with us. I don't like speaking for other people. I always feel like that's presumptuous, but it seems like it wouldn't be a terrible leap to say that I'm not the only one carrying baggage. Like it took me way too long to come out of the closet. Like I drank for way too long. Like whatever happened to me when I didn't do my homework in 7th grade, whatever, right? Like that stuff that you carry. And then you were also talking about the fact of the sense, like I said, that we get to the root. And then I just asked the question, well, what if you don't know what the root is? So then meanwhile, we're all trying to live our lives. And so one of the things you've specialized in is the treatment of anxiety and depression. I'm looking at it in a personal and professional, both. It doesn't have to just be slammed into a sales presentation, but I simply mean that if you're trying to live your life and you're trying to better yourself, and you're concerned, I don't want to go through that specific route because I don't want to lose control. What the hell do you do? And it's like, for God's sake, you've got so many people that are thinking, I've tried everything, and then meanwhile, maybe you haven't. What are some of the symptoms you should look out for, and maybe possible reasons why you might want to try one more thing?
It's the anxiety, it's the depression. And here's the thing with depression and even anxiety. They're, again, like you were just talking about, they're symptoms. Depression is a symptom of something. And it could be a thyroid problem. It could be side effects of a medication. It could be a head injury. It's been shown that depression has been linked to head injuries that happened 2 years before the depression started. So if you were in a car accident 18 months ago and all of a sudden I'm just depressed all the time, why would you link it to the car accident? So there is some, you gotta really help the person understand where this depression may be coming from, and if it's necessary, see your doctor, see a brain specialist like one of the Dr. Daniel Amen clinics or something like that. But in terms of the healing, coming to a hypnotherapist is, again, usually is last resort. Maybe you read an article or a book, or you had somebody recommend it to you. But generally, it's like, I'm in so much physical pain. I'm in so much emotional pain. I don't know what else to do. I have nothing else to lose. Got nothing else to lose. And so you try hypnotherapy. And I'm going to say it again. You know what the problem is, not consciously. And that's why talk therapy can last for years and years and years, is because you're trying to find a root problem that's not within your conscious awareness. I was teaching some classes over Zoom during the COVID era. And they were, classes like on pain control and healing acceleration and immune system boosting. They were over Zoom. We'd get 12, 15 people during these classes, Cancer Support Community of Arizona. And this older woman was in the classes. I'd guess she's about 70. And she'd been to two classes. We'd done two classes. On the third class, I was early. It's my class. I'm going to be early to the class. And she was early. So we just started chit-chatting, waiting for other people to show up and start the class. And she asked me if hypnotherapy works with procrastination. course it does. That's a mindset. That's a defense mechanism. You want to walk away from the rattlesnake in the trail or the bear. You've seen those, videos of bears chasing people while they're skiing down a hill or something. You want to move away from the fight in the street. You want to move away from the edge of the Grand Canyon. But when it becomes unresourceful, now you're moving away from something that benefits you. So you have procrastination, whether fear of failure, fear of judgment, whatever the issue may be. So yeah, hypnotherapy can help with that. It's a mindset issue. So we actually set up an appointment for the very next day. I had time in the afternoon.
Okay.
And we get to the appointment over Zoom.
Mhm.
And she says, and what's interesting about this work is when you realize you're going to be, doing some healing work, the gears start turning. And I think the subconscious mind comes to the healing thought of, well, why work on a problem when we can work on the problem? And so when she came to the session, she said, over Zoom, again, this is just like an online session over Zoom. She says, I know I told you I wanted to work on procrastination, but what I really want to work on is why I don't matter in life. This is a 70-year-old woman who thinks she doesn't matter in life. That comes from somewhere. And she knows exactly where it comes from, maybe not consciously, but it's something she's been dealing with for decades and decades. As she put it, there's a feeling state to not mattering, just as there is to anxiety or fear. There's a feeling state that comes when you feel that you don't matter in life. That feeling state is created by the change in brain chemistry. When we're anxious, we create that adrenaline and cortisol, those neural peptides of anxiety or fear. To change your brain chemistry in that way can only happen through having a thought or accessing a memory. She knows what that memory or thought is subconsciously in her unconscious because it's changing her feeling state. Something in her external environment is triggering that release of that certain chemistry because of a thought or accessing her memory. So she knows what it is, not consciously, but we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to do talk therapy. We're going to access that feeling state of not mattering and connect it back up to the thought or memory that's creating it. She knows how to do that. It's her subconscious mind. It's that powerful. So we do some regression work. And I say, I'm going to count from 10 down to 1. And by 1, you'll be at that event that originated this feeling state of not mattering. 10 down to 1. 1, where are you? I'm standing up in my crib and my father's screaming at me because I won't stop crying. He's standing up. What is that? 12 months old, 14 months old? And she's 70-ish years old. That's late 1950s, early 1960s. And men aren't taught to be the most nurturing people in the world. Mom's out of the house, maybe. Dad's having a bad day, bad week, bad life. And this baby won't stop crying. He doesn't know what to do. And the only thing that comes to him, maybe it's just to scream louder than the baby and tell the baby to shut up. Now, in that instant, that mind of hers, like all of ours, it has to justify why this is happening. And in that mind of hers, that's only a year old, maybe a year and a half old, it comes to the conclusion, well, the only reason this person who's supposed to love me, supposed to nurture me, supposed to protect me is screaming at me is that I don't matter in life. Is it true or is it false? It doesn't matter. That's what that child came up with. And until you change the instructions within your subconscious mind, why would anything change? And so she held on to that way of protecting herself. Well, I don't matter in life, so I don't want to move forward. I want to procrastinate. Even though this might create happiness or joy or benefit me in some way, I'm going to move away from that because I might get screamed at. And so she hid herself, hid her light, if you will, her energy for some 70 years until one day she decided to change it. And she did. She had 2 or 3 group sessions about pain control and healing acceleration with 12 other people over Zoom. And then she had 1 solo session that took her back to being a year old, a year and a half old. And she healed that child because she knew what to do about it. When she realized what the problem was, she knew what to do about it. Not me. I didn't fix her. Hypnotherapy in and of itself didn't fix her. She fixed herself because she healed the child. She knew what to do for that child. And I've heard from her for quite a while afterwards. And she was doing fantastic. I was getting an email from her every few months or so for about a year or so. And she was doing fantastic because she knew what the problem was unconsciously and she knew what to do about it unconsciously. And that's the extraordinary uh, healing potential, not of hypnotherapy, not of Craig Meriwether, but of you. You, John, and everybody else listening, you have that power. You can do that. Your subconscious mind is that powerful. And you know what the problem is. You know what the answer is. And that's why this work maybe takes 2 sessions, 3 sessions, 4 sessions, because you are that powerful. And that's what's extraordinary about it. I wish that everybody knew. And
Oh
it's
God.
fine to talk about it. And and you find a lot of healing and a lot of help in talk therapy. But if you don't know what the problem is,
Mhm.
what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Well, you don't. So you
Well,
don't talk
yeah,
about anything. You just make
yeah.
things up, or you make excuses.
Or you make
Remind
excuses,
me,
yeah.
you make so. How old was that person again?
She's around 70,
Okay,
in her
so
70s.
think of all the people that, like, as people are living longer, as
Mm,
people are feeling the need to, like, okay, well, my life isn't over. I'm 70, and it's not like it's over. But there's so many people, like you said, she was holding herself back. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to,
yeah,
um, and to think of all and that element of not having control. I would speak, God, you said it. So the therapist that worked with me, Joe, it wasn't just the smoking. He pulled me
mm,
out of a very traumatic situation that I went through. Um,
mhm,
and the drinking thing that I talked about was very real. You know what I
yeah,
mean? In terms for me, and being panic stricken about coming out of the closet. I was 42.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And it was like, so like there were life circumstances, but you said a line and it kept resonating. It wasn't you have nowhere else to go, but God, you went through the steps. It wasn't you have nowhere else to go. It was I've nowhere else to turn.
sure is,
Um,
yeah,
I think folks, like I said, I think that's so valuable that it's like, well, you do have somewhere else to turn. Uh, and it's the what I could speak for firsthand was the I never felt out of control with Joe. I'll
yeah,
vouch for you, Craig. You said it.
yeah,
It was like I was quite aware of everything that was going on. I would describe it for me as a very deep state of relaxation, but never losing consciousness and never,
yeah.
you know what I mean? There was always a willingness for me. And I think, Craig, I think it's brilliant that you do that. I wanted to touch on something else too, because I think in terms of short-term stuff, I find it fascinating. And I think it's fascinating in terms of not just pulling people out of anxiety and depression, but situational things you created. And I love the name of this called Ace Any Test, of which my first response in my head was, well, who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, great title, by the way.
Thank,
Um, so when I first looked at it, I'm like, this is great. And God, I wish I had that when I was in high school. But I also know too that I love the fact this impacts people at literally any age. What gave you the impetus to pull all that together?
um, my son's test anxiety
Hmm.
and having this toolbox, of working on my own depression, my own anxiety.
Right.
I noticed my son's struggling with it, but I also worked one of my first ever clients as a hypnotherapist
Hmm.
was a person struggling with test anxiety. She was in her early 30s.
Okay.
She's an extraordinarily intelligent woman, had her master's degree, and she wanted to kind of pivot her career, and she wanted to become an audiologist, helping deaf children, helping children with hearing impairment.
Mm.
And what an extraordinary career to want to get into. So she did the training. She spent tens of thousands of dollars in training, hundreds and hundreds of hours of training and education,
Hmm.
and she couldn't pass the certification exam. So she can start this career that, I mean, beginning salary for an audiologist is like $80,000. And so she just couldn't start this career because she couldn't pass the licensing exam, the certification exam. Again, uh, extraordinary, intelligent woman. And as we were doing some of the healing work and regression work, found that she was great in high school, top of the class, bachelor's degree, top of her class. But then she went to a graduate school to get her master's degree, and it was filled with people at the top of the class.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she was always the big fish in a small pond. Now she was just a regular fish in a regular pond with a lot of other really smart people.
Right.
And so the stress started. She wanted to remain at the top. And so all the extra studying, all the extra homework, all the extra study groups, and the lack of sleep. And she practiced over and over again being in this stress response about a test coming up or the report being due or having to give the presentation in front of the class. She graduated, she got her master's degree, but she also graduated with a habit of being anxious and stressed around deadlines and tests and exams. So she could do the homework, she could do the training. She understood what to do to be a great audiologist. She just couldn't pass the licensing exam because of that stress and anxiety she had practiced for so many years. And so we worked on that, and she got through it, and she passed the exam. And it's not just the frustration of not passing. It's like the humiliation. Now you got to tell your family, got to tell your friends, well, you could be coming. Well, no, I didn't pass again.
How old
and
was
these things, 30, early 30s.
So like you didn't pass the test, everybody, and you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
And these like a goof, right?
Yeah. And it's embarrassing, it's humiliating, and it's aggravating, it's disappointing. Sure. And and it's hard in the pocketbook because some of these tests are like $600.
Yep.
I think the real estate exam, that's $50, $100 to take that. Some of those bar exams in some states are $1,000. You don't pass it, you got to take it again for another $1,000.
Oh yeah.
Auto mechanics, electricians, plumbers, they all have to take these extraordinary tests to prove to the state that they can do the work. So work with her. She passed her exams, became an audiologist, and I worked with a few other people, teenagers, other people in their 20s and their 30s. And when I started looking around, even just for my son, what kind of resources are out there, there's a handful of children's books on Amazon. There's one or two manuals on test anxiety. There's a couple of programs on like teachable.com and things like that are an hour long. And there are a handful of 5-minute videos you can find on YouTube. But there wasn't any comprehensive course. And so I just started taking the tools and the strategies, the skills that I was using with other people. I thought, well, what if I just put together a course? And that's what it is. It's about 6 hours of video training. There's about 20 different recordings that you can download and use to practice these techniques. And there's both a wake-up version and a going to sleep version. So there's really 40 recordings, about 20 different worksheets to download. So it's all these tools, and because it's not all one solution. There's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So I wanted to give people various different tools. And because we talked about earlier, and we can do this now, a couple of processes. Because you mentioned the vision one, and it's called the wide vision exercise. And part of the stress response is you get that tunnel vision. And it's literally a tunnel vision because you want to focus on the danger that's right in front of you. And so you turn off your peripheral vision. This information isn't important to your survival. It's that danger where it's the bear, the rattlesnake, the sniper in front of you. So you want to hyper focus on that. You're turning on the stress response, the adrenaline, the cortisol in the brain, the neuropeptides, 300% more blood moving to the big muscles of your arms to fight, 300% more blood moving to the big muscles of your legs to say, guess where that's coming from? It's coming from your brain. It's coming from your immune system. It's coming from your digestive system. And so that's why you can have that panic thinking.
How do you know it's coming? Or is this just not just, take out the word just.
Well, yeah.
This a preventative measure? How do you know this is common?
Why the exercise is common?
More so than I need to practice this thing.
Right.
What are you feeling? Or what is one example that you might be going through as you're sitting or at your computer or in a class or whatever? What's going through you to think, wait a minute, I might need to do something here.
Exactly. And of course, everybody's a little bit different.
Sure.
Some people may have actual physical symptoms of nausea or sweaty palms. They may have more emotional issues of that panic feeling, that anxiety, that fear of failure, fear of judgment, that you're not going to do well. You may have that the thoughts just going out of your head. You've studied, you know this material backwards and forwards. You've done the study groups, and you get to the test, and all of a sudden, it just leaves your mind because again, you're focusing on the danger. Unfortunately, it's just maybe a paper in front of you that you're doing with a pencil or a pen or on a computer, not a rattlesnake, not a sniper, not an earthquake or anything like that's happening. It's
Mine
just
were the racing thoughts. That's what I was going to say. That's
racing
mine are the
thoughts.
racing, all confused thoughts. So
And
now,
so
walk me through. What do we do?
the exercise you were specifically talking about, and I'll show you this one and another really cool one.
Please.
What you're trying to do is reverse the tunnel vision.
Okay.
And by accessing your peripheral vision, you access your peripheral vision, you have to turn off the stress response, move out of the sympathetic nervous system, the stress response, and move over to the parasympathetic relaxation response. And so and of course, if you're driving, please don't do this. If you're supervising the kids around the swimming pool, whatever, come back to this later. Pause it or just listen and later when you're in a safe place where you can focus and concentrate just on this exercise, then come back and do it. But one aspect of having this tunnel vision is you've turned off the peripheral vision. And so for those of you on the video, I'll be using my hands and things. For those of you just auditory, I'll try to explain it as I'm going along. But the wide vision exercises, we're going to expand our peripheral vision from the tunnel vision of the stress response. And so if you want to focus your attention just on a space, like I've got a window right in front of me. And so there's a tree out. And so I'm looking at a leaf on a tree and just maybe focus on a spot, whether there's a wall in front of you, a painting, a picture, maybe a little pattern in the drywall. There's a spot specifically on the picture that you can focus on.
Got it.
And have this soft vision, and then just allow, again, only if you're in a safe place to do this and you can focus on this exercise. But as you're focusing on that spot straight ahead of you, keeping your head still, only moving your eyes, move your eyes all the way to the left. And see if you can see what you can see as far to the left as you can. Are there pictures? Are there paintings? Is there a window? Is there a chair? And then when you kind of clock what's going on over on the left, put your eyes back on the center. Now move all your eyes all the way to the right. See what's on the right side. Move your eyes forward. Move your eyes up without moving your head. Just move your eyes up. See, can you see the ceiling? Can you see the beautiful blue sky? Are there clouds out? And then move your eyes forward again. Now move them down. Can you see without moving your head, keeping your head perfectly still, move your eyes all the way down. Can you see something on the floor, on your desk, wherever you are? Moving your eyes forward again. Keeping your eyes straight, keeping your head straight, without moving your head, without moving your eyes. See how far you can expand your peripheral vision, both on your left and your right. If you need to, put your hands in front of your eyes, maybe in the prayer position, and then slowly start moving them to the side to widen your vision. See if you can watch your hands, or just see if you can look all the way as far to the left as you can, all the way to the right as you can. Not only is this taking your attention off the thing that's causing the stress and the anxiety, but again, it's widening your vision, it's turning off the stress response, because if you're observing what's in your peripheral, you've turned off the stress response. There's no need to tunnel vision the danger. So now this is a great one to do while doing a test. Of course, you're not going to want to move your hands around or anything like that. That was just for a demonstration purposes. But you can take a minute. If you're having 50 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour for this test, maybe even longer, take a few minutes here and there. Take a deep breath in, just blow it out, and do that exercise. Eyes to the left, eyes to the right, eyes up, eyes down. And then again, probably not wanting to use your hands in the middle of the test, but just notice the peripheral vision on the left and on the right. Maybe even try to pretend like you could look all the way behind you. And again, not only you're taking your mind off the question that's stumping you, the anxiety it may be, causing some fuzzy thinking or the thoughts to go over your head. Now you're just focusing on this information that's in your peripheral. Now, another great tool,
Before you
great
continue, and
exercise.
I want to do it, I just want to acknowledge you for that
Oh, okay.
specifically, just this tool.
Yeah.
I have a deep appreciation. I'm laughing for peripheral vision because I almost lost mine. So
Oh,
one of
really?
the reasons I noticed it, right?
Yeah.
And I won't bore you with that long story, but other than to say that, so I have this very deep appreciation for utilizing peripheral vision. And so that was really what initially caught my attention. However, you walking me through the exercise helps tremendously. And folks, especially if you're watching, but you described it great if you're listening
Yeah.
too, that these sorts of, like, I didn't time it because I was focusing with you,
Right.
but that could not have taken 1 minute.
Yeah.
Like literally, and that's you talking it through. That couldn't have taken a moment, but you talk about centering yourself. It was just really, really, really cool. And the weird thing I was going to say was, I love that you can't do it in a classroom because somebody's going to
Right.
think
Right.
you're trying to get an answer from your
Yeah.
pal in
You're
the
right.
lab. But it's the utilizing your hands, if you're able to see how far your eyes will take you, is kind of magic, because it just talk about expanding your field of vision, that in a literal sense. So anyway, thank you for
Yeah.
that, because what
Well,
it
and
does,
you,
it just locks you in to the
yeah.
present. I'm right here, centered, right, you know what I mean, right here, right now. And I just thought that
Yeah.
was great.
You just nailed it. And I'm going to steal this from you. It locks you into the present.
Yeah.
And even if you can do one of those, the old comical thing where you try to put your arm around your day and go, do one of those. You
Yeah.
can do one of those, like pretending you're stretching, like
Yeah,
this,
exactly.
and of course that's not going to make any sense for
No,
those just
but
listening,
that's
but,
magic,
um,
that I was going to say, just that sense that it just gives you, like I said again, it just locks you in.
yeah,
And to me, thank you. Beautiful. And
yeah.
I do want to
Well,
do a real one.
let me
Please.
do one more
Please,
for you
yes.
all. And this was something I got from Dr. Richard Nongar, one of the people I've been training with for years and years, an extraordinary hypnotherapist and trainer. And it's called 3-2-1 reset. And the 3 stands for slow, easy, gentle breaths. This is the great regulator of your nervous system. The breath. You've been given everything you need to regulate your nervous system. The breath is a big part of that. Of course, it's, remember from science class, your blood supply is moving around your body. It's delivering oxygen to your cells and muscles and tissues, as well as picking up carbon dioxide, gases, toxins. It's moving to your lungs. You exhale it out. Oops, I'm just knocking my computer. And breathing in all that oxygen. Well, when we're stressed, we have a tendency just to breathe in the upper part of our lungs. There's the
Right.
top third of the lungs. That's because we're tightening the stomach muscles, the abdominal muscles. We're waiting for that 1-2 punch to the gut.
Yep. Oh,
We
right.
need those big belly breaths to open up or flatten out the diaphragm and get the lungs to get air into the bottom of our lungs. Feel where your rib cage is. It's like 2 inches from your hip bones.
Yep.
The lungs are huge, but we're only breathing into top part of our lungs when stressed because we tighten those. And look, let's say as we get older, maybe when we were younger, we want to look good. We want to look good at the wedding. We want to look good at the high school reunion. So we're sucking it in and we want our pants to fit better.
Yep.
But if you can practice, and this actually took me a while when I, was finding my way through these different breathing exercises, release those muscles and let them go. And to start blowing up your abdomen like a balloon so you can feel the air again to the bottom of your lungs. Because, again, the blood's moving around your body. It moves through your lungs. You exhale out all that carbon dioxide and gases and toxins, trash and garbage. Breathe in all that oxygen. Well, in the top part of your lungs, the 1/3, because, it looks like a pear cut from top to bottom.
Right.
Narrow at the top, wide on the bottom. If you've ever seen a picture of a lung or diagram. 1 or half a cup of blood's moving through the top part of your lungs every minute, cleansing and cleaning, oxygenating that half a cup of blood. Bottom of your lungs, 1 liter of blood. And just as a visual, I'm going to get out of sight here for a second because I got my visual cues because I didn't know we were going to do this one. But just to get my visual cues, and for those who aren't on video, I'm going to have to explain this to you, but this is a liter. This is a Gatorade bottle filled with Gatorade, because apparently when you go on the dark web looking for a liter of blood, they don't like that. But this is a
They
liter
give you
of Gatorade.
Gatorade instead. Ah, damn.
So this is 60 of these an hour. 1 liter of blood every minute, only in the bottom of your lungs. 20% of this, I don't know, that's 20%.
Wow.
That's 20% of the oxygen you breathe in goes directly to your brain. So if you're breathing deeply into the bottom of your lungs, you can not only cleanse and clean 1 liter of blood every minute, you can oxygenate that blood. This is half a cup. This is half a cup of blood. This is 1 liter. This is the difference. And of course, you know, your audio people aren't seeing this, but this is how much, when you're stress breathing, you're oxygenating. So if you can do this deep breathing, this alone is it for a lot of people. Not just a wide breathing exercise, or the wide vision exercise, but just breathing all this oxygen and sending all that oxygen up to your brain for calm, rational thinking. Also, we have the vagus nerve. This has been very trendy to talk about over the last decade or so, the vagus nerve. Now, vagus is Latin for wonder. We have these 12 nerves that come out of the back of our head. It's that thing when you touch a hot pot, signal goes up your nerve to the brain. Hey, you're touching a hot pot, let it go. It goes back down, you let it go. All within a millionth of a second. The 10th cranial nerve is a vagus nerve. Vagus is Latin for wonder. It attaches to the eyes, to the ears, to the muscles of your jaw, it goes past your vocal cords, it attaches to your heart, to your lungs, to your gut. The vagus nerve is a big part of the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response. Not the sympathetic stress response, but the parasympathetic relaxation response. It's attached to the lungs. If by breathing slowly, gently, deeply, smoothly, rhythmically, you stimulate the vagus nerve attached to the lungs, therefore you activate the parasympathetic. How easy is this? This is super easy. As you're breathing deeply, not only are you getting this 60 of these liters of oxygen.
So a liter's a quart, folks. If you're listening,
yeah, breathing is important.
You're like, just picture a quart of something versus a mouthful.
Yeah. Well, and then look, I know it's obnoxious and I know it's cliche to tell somebody struggling with anxiety to take a deep breath. That's annoying.
Yeah, it's like easy for
That's literally one of the best things you can do for yourself is to take a deep breath into your belly, release those muscles and get those big belly breaths. Watch a baby breathe. It's all belly breaths.
Exactly.
And from day 1 to 2 years old, that's a lot of growth. So those tiny little lungs need a lot of oxygen for that growth. Guess what? Right as we're getting into school, is we start tightening those muscles, and so pretty much by high school, it's all upper chest breathing because you're just nervous and stressed and anxious all the time for a lot of us. And so 3, 2, 1 reset, 3 slow, easy, gentle breaths. The 2 is we're going to create bilateral stimulation. Now, when you're feeling anxious, you're feeling that anxiety, you're feeling the stress, the fear, the panic, you're lighting up a part of the right side of the brain. We know from science class, energy cannot be created or destroyed, so it just doesn't turn on. It needs blood supply, it needs oxygen, fuel, nutrients. So it vacuums up, sucks it up from other parts of the brain to light this part up, to quickly send the signals of emotion, to warn the body, all that. So these other parts of the brain go dark, they go quiet. So how do you undo that? I have nothing else but my little minion doll here. So I'll use
then we're going with the minion doll.
I was looking for my squeezy ball. I don't know what happened to it, but we'll use the minion doll.
Despicable Me 4 coming out this week.
Yeah. I'm really excited.
Shameless plug. But go ahead.
I don't know if my son wants to go, but I'll be standing in line, I think. But so just by moving your body, you can start activating other parts of the brain. Whenever you move your body, whenever you think a thought, feel an emotion, you're firing brain cells. So right now you're in fear, panic, anxiety. So all these neurons are firing right here, a part of the right side of the brain. Let's light up the other parts of the brain, suck away that energy from the anxiety. And one way is just by transferring whatever, it's a tennis ball, a racquetball, a water bottle, something that's not going to break, glass, mug, your phone, but just transfer it. So open up your arms to a T, and then just transfer it. Right side of the body controls the left side of the, what did I just say? Right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. Left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So by transferring this, I'm operating on both sides of my brain. I need energy. I need blood supply. I need oxygen to do this little movement. And so I'm forcing my brain to suck away the energy from that anxiety and that panic. Bilateral stimulation. If you've ever seen somebody in class, in a meeting, drumming on their knees, They're not hyper, they're not ADHD, they're nervous, and they're trying to self-soothe themselves and calm themselves, just drumming on their knees, just the feeling of the padding on your knees. Walking, that's why walking feels so good. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. What we're going to do for our bilateral stimulation to start calming the brain down and moving the blood supply to other places, we're going to grab our shoulders. Now, this, you may notice, obviously is a hug. Now we're going to hack our brain and we're going to start changing our brain chemistry immediately. Now you can just grab your shoulders, squeeze your shoulders. You can do the bear hug. You do the havening technique, which is rubbing your hands up and down your arms. That feels good. It feels wonderful. If you're feeling good, feeling wonderful, you're changing your brain chemistry. Your body's now sending signals up to your brain. Your brain is now creating oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine just through this hug. Now we're going to, again, only if it's safe for you to do so, not if you're driving, not if you're watching kids around the pool, but if you want to close your eyes, if you haven't already, breathing deeply and gently in through your nose, exhaling out through your mouth twice as long. With this hug, you're now going to visualize somebody you want to give a hug to. Now, this could be somebody in your life today, a good friend, child, a pet, a dog, a cat. Maybe you were watching a nature documentary about elephants and you fell in love with elephants. Maybe you resonate with a certain animal. You have a power animal, a spirit animal. Maybe it's somebody who's no longer with us, your grandmother, your grandfather. Maybe somebody you've never met before, Mother Teresa, or I don't know, John F. Kennedy, somebody. Imagine, pretend. Because remember, the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Again, we know that from a nightmare. So let's use this to our advantage and do it on purpose. This hug, you're already sending signals for the brain to create oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. Now we're going to supersize it by thinking of that person, pretending we're hugging a person we care for deeply. And you'll start feeling those neuropeptides, those molecules of joy, love, and happiness, hundreds of millions dumping into your bloodstream. You've literally just hacked your system. You reset your nervous system, turned off the stress response through the breathing, through the bilateral stimulation. And now you're creating oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, the neuropeptides of love, joy, and happiness, literal molecules of love, joy, and happiness, dumping into your bloodstream because you're thinking of that person you want to give a hug to. Now, of course, you can do this exercise for half an hour if you want, as long as you want, but if you just do this for 5 minutes, you'll literally reset your entire system, reboot yourself. Now, a great time to do this is in the morning because flooding your brain with that oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, that's going to focus your brain, your reticular activating system specifically, to find you more things to be joyful about. You know that thing, if you probably had the experience of your day going from bad to worse.
Oh,
because
right.
your brain is trying to find more things to be, to be upset about, because you focused your brain to find more, finding the answers to that. We're being inundated with 11 million bits of information per second. So what we're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, the lights of the room, the temperature, things we probably don't notice unless it's too dark or too bright, things we don't notice unless it's too hot or too cold. We're being inundated with all this information. We're cognizant of 50 bits out of that 11 million. So we filter out a lot of stuff. So when your day is going from bad to worse, you're just focusing that 50 bits of information on all the crap that's going on in your life and ignoring, filtering out all the good stuff. It's happening. But I know the world's on fire. I know, I see the news. I have elderly parents. I have a son I worry about. I know, that maybe sometimes life seems like a dumpster fire, but there is lots of things to be grateful about, lots of things to be joyful about. But if you're cutting that out, filtering that out, and only focusing on the bad, you're just going to get more of the bad, because that's what you're focused your reticular activating system to focus on. What if you start your day with 3-2-1 reset, or the wide vision, or the breathing exercises? Boot your system, your nervous system, flood your brain with oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. Start your day that way. We're talking 5 minutes. Or before you walk into the meeting, sit in your car before you walk into work. Set your, put yourself in state. Anybody, whether you're Ian McKellen doing King Lear on the West End or Broadway,
right?
Whether you're Tony Robbins before you walk out onto a stage in front of 10,000 people, whether you're a musician and an athlete, you're going to put yourself in state. So We all need to do that. If you want a certain feeling state of confidence or joy or happiness before you walk into that meeting or before you walk back home after a crappy day, put yourself in state. This is a great exercise, 3-2-1 reset, as developed by Dr. Richard Nungar, a great way of doing that. And do it again and again and again. It's 3-2-1 reset, not 3-2-1 do it once and your life is rainbows and unicorns. And you know that there's a relentlessness to this work. The Dalai Lama still meditates every day. The man's 89 years old. And if anybody was to have it down by now, you think it'd be that guy. But read his books. He talks about the anger, the sorrow, and despair of what's going on in
thought of him
Tibet.
as a slow learner.
Yeah, slow. Well, he's a human being,
right?
And of course, he's focusing on Tibet. He's let alone the world at large. They're still bulldozing down his monasteries in Tibet. The Chinese government is still arresting his monks. Of course, that's going to create anger and sorrow and despair. He was exiled out of Tibet in like 1958, something like that.
Yeah.
Of course, he's a human being. He's going to feel that. Every day, he practices loving kindness and compassion because that's who he wants to be. So he practices every day. If anybody was to have it down, you think it'd be that guy. He's not married. He doesn't have kids. He has a staff of people to meet his every need and want since he was probably 5 or 6 years old. And yet every day he's practicing. Tony Robbins still practices. Watch that documentary about him. I'm Not Your Guru. He still practices this stuff every day. Find what you need, the methods that work best for you. And again, there's a relentlessness to this work. Practice every day. Pick anything, a golfer, a baseball player, a martial arts, any 10th degree, level person in Taekwondo is going to practice every day. Any musician, whatever it is you want to master, whether it's confidence, happiness, joy, or a sport, or a form of music, martial arts, dance, whatever it is, you got to practice. And not just once or twice. You just don't get to go to the gym once or twice. Jack LaLanne, you probably know Jack LaLanne.
I remember well.
Yeah. Okay. So, and for those who may be too young, he was a fitness guru back in the 60s and 70s. He was on all the talk shows.
To use television, one of the very first.
Yeah. And he was a vegetarian. He was a juicer. He had his own line of gyms. He was on all the talk shows, Johnny Carson, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, all of them. And he was the guy who would, on his birthday every year, pull the rowboats filled with people across a lake or something. He was working out the day before he died at the age of 96. He just didn't work out until he was 40 and then kick back, and he looked like that for the rest of his life. Same with the Dalai Lama. He meditates Tony Robbins has been doing this work since 1980, 40 years. He still practices every day. So there's a certain relentlessness to getting what you want, to mastering how you want to be, how you want to feel. You can have it. You can have all the joy, all the happiness. There might be pain you need to deal with, but you can have the joy, the confidence, the happiness, the love, whatever it is you're looking for. But there does come work to that. Ask the Dalai Lama when you quit. You can't ask Jack LaLanne anymore, but anybody who has mastered anything, whether a 10th degree black belt in Taekwondo, a dancer, a musician, an athlete, a master of business, a master of speaking in front of people, there's a relentlessness to maintaining and strengthening all that you have learned and how you grow. So those are two extraordinary, three, I guess, if you count just breathing. That wide vision exercise, the breathing, the 3-2-1 reset, these are extraordinary ways of resetting yourself, literally changing your brain chemistry, hacking your brain. And you can do that in just 5 minutes. That's all it takes. Super simple.
Craig, the word you've kept using, I'm so glad you added it in toward the end here. Not just it's the relentless part. I think, to me, that's how I'm going to remember this, because there needs to be a relentlessness, but I will also acknowledge you too for the ease in the way that you position the tips. None of these things, it's relentless, because you got to keep up the practice. But none of these things are terribly complicated, or I'll never figure that out, or I'll never be able to. And so, as I acknowledge you, I want you to know that I love the fact that you're able to get to the root of situations. I love the fact that it may not be, what's the old cliche, simple but not easy, or
Yeah.
I never get that quote right. But the fact is, it's doable in a way that would be enjoyable. The real benefit, as I see this, as what you've brought to the table, is the sense that you can hack your brain quickly, efficiently, and you can do it literally at any time of the day or situation, and as many times as is necessary. And that relentless part is because there is no reason to continue to think so often, I have nowhere to turn. That sent chills to me the first time you said it, because I can't imagine the number of people that really do feel that way, and it's very real to them. So, Craig, I first off acknowledge you so much. You're so worth the wait, man. I'm very grateful that you showed up for me today.
Yeah,
you made it great for me, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Secondly, I know, and the links will be there, that I can find you on aceanytest.com. Yep. I know that I can find you on LinkedIn. And as you and I were talking about earlier, maybe I'm not spending as much time trying to find you on Instagram, but that's another issue for another time. But in addition to LinkedIn and aceanytest.com, is there anywhere else that you would suggest people go to learn more about you?
Yeah, if you specifically want to learn more about hypnotherapy, the name of my hypnotherapy practice is Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona. John and I were talking about that before we started recording. It's a beautiful small town up in the mountains, 7,000 feet near Sedona in the Grand Canyon. But if you just Google Flagstaff hypnosis, you'll see several businesses show up. Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy is me. Tons of information about hypnotherapy.
Beautiful.
And if you want more information, just let's get on a call. We'll chit chat. As you can imagine, my consultation calls run a little long because I like to chat.
Yeah, but you bring substance, man. So that's okay. Substance and depth and practical takeaways. And I'm thrilled about all that. Craig Meiwether, thank you so much again for being
John, it was so much fun. I was looking forward to this for a long time. I love your podcast. So I was excited to be invited on. And man, let's do this again at some point.
That was going to be my last question. Oh, I lied. I do have one more question. Man, I forgot it. But since I do it with other guests, there's no reason I'm going to leave you out. That was one of the questions. Would you come back? So you handled
Oh my God, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you name the time, name the place.
Beautiful. Here's the second one.
Yeah.
In your mind and in your world, what does authenticity mean to you?
Say that again.
In your mind and in your world, what does authenticity mean to you?
I think that's a great question. I know you asked that. Should have been prepared for this. Authenticity is just, I think, we were talking about the root of the problem. I think this is getting to the root of who you are and presenting that without the mask, without the fear, without the doubt. And that's not easy to do. That's scary to do. But I think you can come to business with authenticity. I think it's coming to business without trying to, scam your customers with maybe untrue advertising, but just allowing your true self. And I know that sounds cliched, and I don't like that very much, but you're allowing that part of you that is really you, without the mask, without the heavy overcoat of fear of what people might think of you. And that's dangerous to do. That's scary to do. But if you can do it, man, that brings you so much joy. I think that brings you a lightness and a freedom that you've never experienced before. Yeah.
Dude, that's the path. That's the journey. Craig Meriwether, thanks so much again, man, for being here.
You're welcome, John.
Delight.
Loved it. Thank you.
Hey, folks, you just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep watching, liking, sharing, telling all your friends, and we'll keep driving content right through your front door. John Duffin, Duffin Media here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day. We'll talk again soon. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.